Hey guys, here we are, Reelfoot Lake, Tennessee. We're standing outside of Blue Bank Resort right here. Reelfoot Lake is calling our name. Got a good one. Good one. Is that a way to start a day? This is the way I do it here on Reelfoot. Let's see how everybody else does it out here. I've invited a lot of my friends and great fishermen from around the entire country. We've got them out of South Carolina. We've got them out of Mississippi. We've got one out of Kansas with us here this week. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna go out here on my home lake, the lake that I guide on, that I fish on, and we're gonna let them show us how they put them on the hook. I've spent most of my life chasing success, chasing money, chasing respect. Truth is, nothing has brought me joy like being right here on the water. Rod in hand, hook on the line, chasing crappie. I am a crappie angler. These are our stories, and this is On the Hook. You know the limit's 10 inches, right? You know, traveling all over the country, seeing the different ways that people approach crappie fishing through filming and just meeting new people, and of course the tournament trails that I fished, it's nice to get back home. And the cool thing this time is I was able to bring them guys here, and now I get to see how they're gonna do it on my own home lake. I know how I do it, now I'm gonna get to see how they do it.
You know, it's definitely getting to be a sportier fish with Livescope and got him. You know, the techniques it takes to catch these fish, there's a generation that's really caught on, it's the younger generation. You can learn how to catch these things watching YouTube now. And that was a situation right there. You know, we had 2 transducers on this fish, which it got the fish nervous. I stuck that jig right in front of his face, swam away from the tree, came back to the tree, did it again, came back to the tree, went down. And once it went down, that fish raised up, and with the profile of the bait right there above it, once it starts coming up, their instincts are to bite sometimes. A lot of times they do, and that was kind of what happened in this situation. It's good fish. Take a bunch more of those. You know, when I'm fishing standing timber, I'm looking for timber the size of my leg, not the size of half of this boat. I would rather see fish nosed up to something smaller in diameter. They react better. You can see them on Livescope better. It seems to be better fish a lot of times. When they can nose themselves up, you can maneuver your bait around that a lot easier. It's just, they're easier fish to catch, in my opinion. What I'm doing whenever I break a brand new lake down, which is the case right now, we've been on this lake for a couple of hours, and I can tell you right now, I'm looking for something the size of my leg, and I'm looking, if we're in 11 feet of water, that fish is gonna be about 10 feet deep to 8 feet deep, something like that. They're not up in the column right now. They're not 4 to 5 feet. Right now they're not. So that's kind of where my eyes are adjusted, is to try to scan out 50, 60 feet, finding something skinnier like this right here. I'll look on this tree and I'll look right beside it on the bottom of this tree. And they'll hide right in here on the bottom a lot of time, and that's just junk fish moving around right there. But that's the typical, that's the size trees I'm looking for. A lot of my drops, I'm not letting it splash. I'm just easing it into the water and letting it slowly fall down to it. Some lakes might not want a weight above that bait. I have a weight above it just because I like to get down to that fish. This is my technique that I like to use a lot of times. If you want to take the sinker off above it, sometimes that's the only way you're going to get a bite. And that's what you have to do. But if I can get down there fast and quick, this is my most efficient way to get to it.
On the Hook is presented by Crappie Monster in partnership with All Aboard Marine, HH Rods and Reels, PTG Outdoors, and JB's Fish Sauce.
My first time on the lake. My home lake is El Dorado Lake in El Dorado, Kansas. But you know, I travel all over. You know, next 2 weeks from now, I'll fish my 30th tournament this year in 11 months. So I've fished a wide variety of different lakes all throughout the season. This is my first time on this lake. You know, I've kind of researched it, look at navionics, and I've tried to compare it to some of the other lakes. So, you know, this is comparable to the northern end of my home lake at El Dorado. You know, it's full of trees. It's a little bit shallower up there, you know, with, you know, maybe with one major creek channel that runs through. And then the rest of it's pretty flat like out here. I've been on so many different bodies of water these last couple of years fishing tournaments, whether it be river systems in Florida, Alabama, to big bodies of water like Grenada Lake, Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, where, you know, everything's totally different, but you can find some similarities. I just had to get it right on his nose. So he was sitting right in between three trees. I had to find the right angle, and he was sitting underneath one that was kind of curved. You know, had a curve like that and was going up, and couldn't see my bait, could see the fish, and then vice versa. Just had to work it in there, and just finally got it in front of his face to see it. You know, that's where a sensitive rod comes in handy, because you can feel your jig going down through the trees. You can feel a limb or something like that. Boat control is very important. You know, if you ain't got the boat control, your boat's always moving. You're going to lose the fish when the tree is in between you and the fish. And then same with your bait. So I mean, you know, it took me quite a while to get that bait in front of the fish, and that was the reason why. Is you know, the wind started picking up a little bit. We have other timber. You know, we hit a tree over here that stopped us. Didn't really want to back it up, possibly spook the fish. So I'm fishing off to the side of the boat trying to catch it. And then, you know, you just got to have patience and take your time and get that bait right there on it.
You kind of got to get everything just right. And that your initial pitch is the most important. That first time in the water it's really important that you do everything right that first time, that you hit your mark. And then you got to present that bait just how they want it presented to them. If you do all that and don't spook her, you can catch her. How it hits the water, you do not want it to sploosh. You know, you don't want it to make any sound. And then you'll catch them. Just like that. Get up here, you old goodin'. If you do everything right, you can catch them. If you've never been here to Reelfoot, I highly recommend you coming. It is an awesome fishery, full of fish. Blue Bank is an amazing place to stay at. The rooms are excellent. Just the main thing is just don't get in a hurry going anywhere on this lake, or you'll tear your boat up. It's just full of really hard cypress stumps, and so you just got to really be careful. But as long as you're careful, I mean, you'll be just fine. Every day's different. I mean, every day, you got to figure out what they want for that particular day. Sometimes they want it just dead sticking. Sometimes they want it swimming over their heads. Sometimes they like you to really shake that thing and be kind of aggressive with it. What I've seen today is they're liking a really aggressive movement. There's just a little better one. To make that fish bite,
I just shake that bait at it.
A lot of these fish, you can't feel them bite it because they come up and they're eating it so good that you can't really feel them. They're coming up with the bait. And so I'm actually watching my screen and working my bait very aggressively. And as soon as I see him streak up, I'm setting the hook because she's got it in her mouth.
On the Hook is presented by Crappie Monster in partnership with Cornfield Fishing Gear, Guthrie Tackle, Skinny Water Marine, and Red Gold.
Damn, did I just scare him off? Nope, I didn't. I got him. Oh, good fish. Another one of Reelfoot's finest right there. Just a good white crappie, a little over 12 inches long roughly. Yeah, see how that they've still got their color? The water temp has dropped a lot here, and this fish right here was down deep. So he shouldn't have that much color being that deep. That lets me know that these fish were holding high. We had a cold front, so that pushed them down. And that's how I know that I cannot rule out the top of the water column. I have to pay attention to that because of the color of the fish. I know that they were high. And what it is, the light penetrates and that brings out the color. When they go super deep or the water gets super cold, you won't even be able to tell whether it's a white crappie or a black one most time because they'll have zero color to them at all. And that one right there you can see is feeding up for the winter. Yes, sir.
Reelfoot's different to me. We fish Mississippi a lot. In Mississippi, it's an open water oriented fishing that we do there. We're chasing fish and looking for fish in open water. And Reelfoot's the same. Reelfoot has open water fish, but these fish are so structure oriented. It's almost like Kentucky Lake. There's so much structure in Reelfoot, of course, all these old cypress stumps and knees and everything else that the open water fish, you can catch them, no doubt, but it's just easier to go from stump to stump to stump and try to find the ones that are aggressive and the ones that are going to bite. And luckily this morning we were able to do that. Them little bitty skinny stumps, man, what was working for me this morning. Reelfoot's got some stumps on this lake the size of this boat. And of course with Livescope, the return is so bright that you can hardly see the fish. So what I do, or what I like to do, is look for the smaller, skinnier stumps that the fish are on. And the fish show up better, you can see your bait better when it gets down there. And to me, it's a whole lot more effective than spending time trying to go around a stump that may be the size of your boat, looking for a fish or looking for that tail or looking for that movement. For me, and especially for beginners, especially on Reelfoot, look for those smaller trees, look for the fish sitting on those smaller trees. You can see your bait, you can see the fish, and you can tell where you're at all times instead of getting on those big trees.
Come on, got him.
It probably took us 15 pitches to finally get that fish to bite. And it could have been we were off an inch or two either way, but the fish didn't spook. And one tip I heard Jeremy say a long time ago was, don't leave a fish sitting there. Spook him off the tree, make him bite, and finally that fish, we put it right in front of his face, shook it a couple times, and finally that fish hit. So sometimes you just gotta stay with them, be patient with them, and let them eat when they want to eat. And then sometimes you gotta make them eat, boys.
The lakes we fish typically we don't have to negotiate this much wood. I mean, we just don't. I mean, we've got wood. There's some standing timber, and the fish will get on that timber, and they fish very similar in that regard. they'll get on the stump, and then depending on the weather, of course, be how they're positioned on the stump. Sometimes at the bottom you can't hardly see them, and you got to kind of drop in there and make one move, and sometimes they're halfway up. We're noticing here, and also like a home, that a lot of the timber that's broke off beneath the surface doesn't come all the way up. Some of that shorter timber will hold the better fish. And here we go. I got you.
Oh, come on now.
That is not.
Well, we had to show you what not to do.
That's right. Don't do that. That's the first fish we've lost. Now he's got it.
What about that,
Well, you got that on camera. Okay.
You got it on like 5 cameras.
Nice fish.
You just stay over and messing around. I'm gonna see what I can find over this direction.
On the Hook is presented by Crappie Monster in partnership with Yamaha, Avid Boats, and Red River Marine.
Toad alert right here. You can see, this is what I tell people, you can see the dove wing hanging off the bottom. That little dot right there, that's its belly fin. After they get bigger, you'll be able to identify the bigger fish. Now I'm talking over 12 inches. You'll be able to see their belly fin. The cartilage starts getting hard and it's no longer transparent the way it is on a smaller fish. So let's jump out here. This is about a 13-inch fish. Let's hope that he didn't get wise to the last one that we just pulled off of that. Yep. He's wide, he's thick. If you squeeze him right here, he's squishy. That's meat. That's them tenderloins on them crappie, and that's what makes them so good to eat. Well, the fishing's pretty good over here. Let's go see how these other guys are doing.
We're out here this morning on Reelfoot. Catch a few slabs. It's been pretty good. We've caught a couple of good fish this morning. You know, the fish are just real scattered. You know, you'll go a little ways before you see one, but if you see one, they're pretty easy to get and bite. And this lake reminds me a lot of my home lake, Santee. It's a real stumpy lake. The only difference is my lake's predominantly black crappie, and this one's more so white crappie. But it's a beautiful lake, and it's a dangerous lake. It's got plenty of stumps in it. Like I said, this lake's is very similar to Santee as it being stumpy, but Santee's a lot bigger. The upper end of Santee is stumpy, but it's a huge lake. The lower end of it is pretty wide open, so it's not quite as dangerous as this one. It just depends on the areas. It's got a lot to offer, open water and swampy, stumpy areas. Well, the attitude of the fish determines that. If they're real aggressive, you can pin them to swing that jig right by him and he'll chase it out there. But if they're a little finicky like they are today, sometimes you just got to hold it and sit it right above them. Just give them. Most time it still don't take but a few seconds, but just hold it still. That's what it's been taking this morning. Like I said, it depends, and not just every day. A lot of times that changes hourly during the day. The sun gets up, sometimes it'll make them bite, sometimes it'll make them a little bit more hard-headed. Today, it seemed like as the sun's gotten up, they've been biting a little bit better. You get that jig close to them, they've been biting pretty good this morning, but you've been having to hold it right above his head. Some days when the fish are finicky, they don't want a whole lot of motion. So that's something you gotta be mindful, because bouncing your rod just a little bit up here, with Livescope, you could actually move it 12 inches down there, and sometimes that's just enough to scare the fish off.
Right now we got trees everywhere and a little wind all of a sudden, but wind was trying to push us away from them. The trees actually helped us a little bit there by stopping us, and this fish was actually pretty active, and he chased it down a couple feet, and he didn't waste any time, and he smacked it. But I got to keep it. Trees can be a hazard, but every once in a while they will help you. You may have to reach over and grab onto one, or in this case, just let it stop you. Let the wind, from the wind pushing you away from the fish, it kind of helped us there, and it just stopped us and gave us a chance to get a jig with that fish.
To close out a season, we wanted to do it with a bang, and wow, I didn't even know there was fish like that out there. I want to thank all of you for joining us all season long. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and you are why we do this. Until season 3, guys, when we get you back on the hook.
I need a lake day.